Hi everyone, in this video we're going to be looking at the second order linear homogeneous differential equation with constant coefficients. So this is a mouthful, so let's take a differential equation and see what all these terms mean. So in this differential equation right here we have a dependent variable x and the independent variable t. So now the linear term means that all the derivatives of x with respect to t will will have there'll be a linear combination, which means that no derivatives will be multiplied with each other. The derivatives will all be their separate terms which cannot be multiplied or divided by each other. So that's what linear means. The homogeneous means that there will be no other term except the terms containing our dependent variable. Uh, we already know what a differential equation is. It's a collection of different derivatives that describe a certain behavior of a function, and then what constant coefficients mean is that the coefficients of these derivatives, that are m and n, are constants. They are not function of x or t, and they can be some other variables that don't depend on x and t, or they can be just regular numbers or integers. So we want to find the general solution of this differential equation, and the reason we want to do that is because differential equations are a great way of dealing with physical systems. They can describe physical systems quite efficiently. So the second order differential equations are used to describe the spring mass dashpot systems. They are also used to describe an inductor, capacitor, resistor circuit that are connected in a series with an input voltage, and we'll look at all those examples. But for now, to gain familiarity with solving such differential equations, let's just start with a general differential equation. So how to go about solving this equation? So what we do is we use a cheat, and I say cheat is because we assume that the solution of this equation is of the form x is equal to e raised to rt, and here r is a constant, and I'm just assuming that this is a solution based on intuition. But we this is this is precisely why it's called a cheat, because the assumption comes from knowing the answer. But once we use this assumption, once we know that x is equal to e raised to rt, we can also know that dx by dt would be equal to r e raised to rt, and then d square x over dt square would be equal to r square e raised to rt. And then substituting the values of x, dx by dt, and d square x over dt square in the differential equation that we have, what we get is r square e raised to rt plus r e raised to rt plus n e raised to rt is equal to 0. Now what you can do is you can take out e raised to rt common from all the three terms, divide both sides by e raised to rt, and what you'll be left with is r square plus mr plus n is equal to 0. Now you can see that this equation is a quadratic equation that we have been pretty familiar with since our algebra classes. We know how to solve such quadratic equations. Here r is the variable, and m and n, as we know, are constants. So drawing parallels from the differential equation, we can see that the second order derivative corresponds to the r squared term. The first order derivative corresponds to the r term, and the no derivative corresponds to no r term. And what we have to do is we have to solve this for r. So once we solve this for r, we'll get two values for r. Let's call them, the solution of this equation will give us two roots for a quadratic equation, which will be r1 and r2. Now, so now that we know the values of r, we can substitute the values of r in our assumption. Since we know that the solution of the differential equation is e to the power rt, and now that we know the values of r, we can say that the solution of the ODE, the solution of ODE will be equal to, it will have two solutions, which will be x e raised, oh, excuse me, it'll be x is equal to e raised to r1t, or the second solution will be x is equal to e raised to r2t. So these are the two individual solutions of our differential equation. The general form is often written to as x c1 e raised to r1t plus c2 e raised to r2t. Here c1 and c2 are constants which are determined by the initial conditions of our differential equation. So let's just write that down. So they are constants determined by initial conditions, and we'll get more familiar with how to determine C1 and C2 in the examples that we do. But for now, let's proceed further. So now what we have to do is we know that whenever we have a quadratic equation, we can get three kinds of roots. We can get roots that are real and distinct. So let's just write that down. We get three kinds of solutions. We get three kinds of solutions for R. So the first case is the roots are real and distinct. The second is that the roots are equal. And the third case is that the roots are imaginary. And whenever the roots are imaginary, they are complex conjugates of each other. Complex conjugates. So we'll now treat each of these cases and determine the general solution of the differential equation for all these three kinds of roots we get in the quadratic equation, and then we'll do some examples for all the three cases. So let's start with the first case. The first case that we have for the kind of roots is that the roots are real and distinct. So let's just, our roots of the quadratic equation are r1 and r2 are real and distinct. And whenever this is the case, the general solution that we mentioned above holds true. So the value of x would be c1 e raised to r1t plus c2 e raised to r2t. So this is for the first case. We already mentioned this above, that for two variables, the general solution of the equation of the differential equation would be of this form. And whenever the roots are real and distinct, this form holds true. Now, when the roots are real, when the roots are equal, what will happen is our two roots would be of the form x equals to e raised to rt, and since both the roots are equal, there will be no r1, r2, but there will be just an r, which is the one root of the quadratic equation. So, to solve this differential equation, we need two distinct roots. That is one of the requirements of to solve this differential equation. We won't go into the proving of this statement, but we do need two distinct roots, and the other root we can get in this solution is that what you do is you multiply the second root by a t. So the x will be equal to t e raised to rt, and this will be a second root. So how do we know that this is a solution of the equation? So if you want to know that, what you can do is you substitute the value of x is equal to t e raised to rt in our differential equation. So you substitute this in our differential equation, and you can prove that it will be a solution of the differential equation if x is equal to e raised to rt is the solution of an equation. And we won't go into the proof of this, but you can accept that the second solution will be t e raised to rt. Well, then the general solution, if both the roots of the quadratic equation will be equal, will be x e raised to x is equal to e raised to rt, or we'll have to multiply a constant, excuse me, for the general solution. So it will be x is equal to c1 e raised to rt plus c2 t e raised to rt. So again, what we've done is we've just taken a combination of the two roots, and we've multiplied each root with a random coefficient and added them. This is also called a linear combination of the two roots. But anyway, this will be the general form of the differential equation when we get two equal roots, and this is often written in this form: c1 plus c2t, and e raised to rt is common. And then this is the general form of the solution when two roots are equal. And then the third case is that the roots are imaginary, and as we mentioned, they are also, whenever they are imaginary, they are also complex conjugates of each other. So say the roots of the equation are r1 is equal to a plus ib and r2 is equal to a minus ib. So we know the roots of the equation. So our general form of the equation would be x1 e raised to a plus ibt plus c2 e raised to a minus ibt. We've just substituted the values of r1 and r2, and we can simplify this as follows. So we break the exponential down in two terms as so, and similarly we do it for the other exponential. And when we take out the e raised to at term common, so this becomes c1 e raised to ibt plus c2 e raised to minus ibt. Well, this is a form of the solution, but we often like to write it in terms of sines and cosines, and the we can just write it in this way: c1 cos bt plus c2 sin bt. And these two equations, you must be thinking how these two equations are, how you get to the final solution from this step. So how you do this is you substitute, you use Euler's identity, and you write it as, you write e raised to ibt as cos bt plus I sin bt, and you do it similarly for the other term. And you simplify this a little bit, and then you just substitute the constants again, and you get the final form of this case, which is written right here. And this, the final equation, that is this equation, is the general form of the solution if the roots are imaginary and complex. We need not need to concern with this equation usually, because trigonometric equations are much more convenient and easy to visualize, and uh, that is why we want to make this substitution. So now that we know the general form of each of the three cases, let us do a couple of examples. So the first example that we'll consider now is as follows. We have to solve the differential equation given to us as 2x double dot plus 3x dot minus 2x is equal to 0. And so what is x double dot and x dot? So you should get familiar with this notation, but x double dot means d square x over dt square, and x dot means dx over dt. And these are just notations that we use to make our problem look more easy to tackle and more clean. So let's proceed. So what we have to do when we want to solve such an equation is that we replace a double derivative with, say, a d square. We replace a single derivative with a d, and then for the term where there is no derivative, we substitute nothing, and we substitute this entire equation to be equal to 0. Now, why do we do that? So as we discussed above, what happened is when we made the substitution in, when we made this assumption and the substitution in our solution, we saw that the square, the second derivative corresponded to the square term, the first derivative corresponded to the linear term, and then the no derivative term corresponded to nothing in our quadratic equation. So similarly, all we have to do is we substitute the second derivative, that is d square x over dt square, with d square. We substitute x dot or dx by dt with d, and where there is just x, we substitute nothing. Now, this is a quadratic equation that we know how to solve. We break down the middle term as 4d minus d minus 2 is equal to 0. And when you take out 2d common from the first term, you get a d plus 2. And then you take out minus 1 from the last two terms, and you get again a d plus 2 is equal to 0. So this simplifies into 2d minus 1 into d plus 2 is equal to 0. So the solution that we get for this is that d is equal to 1 or d is equal to minus 2. So these are our r1 and r2 actually. These are the roots of the quadratic equation that we want to find. So now that we know r1 and r2, they are both real and distinct integers. So let's just bring the general solution of that case where both the roots are real and distinct. We'll bring it down here. That'll aid us, and we know that this is a general solution. So in this case, So we know that this is the form of the general solution. So in our case, R1 and R2 are 1 and minus 2. So the general solution would be x is equal to C1 e raised to 1 t, and the 1 is inconsequential, so we'll just not write that, and C2 e raised to minus 2t. And this is the answer to, this is the general form of the solution to the differential equation. And as you can see, if we substitute x as this value that we obtained right here in this differential equation, then both the left hand sides and the right hand sides will be equal to 0. So this is a general form of the first example of the solution. Here again, as we said, C1 and C2 are constants that depend on the initial conditions that are often given with the differential equation. We'll also see that in a later example. But for now, we've solved this kind of an example for the first of the three cases where the roots are real and distinct. So now let's do the second. So the second example that we have is x double dot minus 2x dot plus x is equal to 0. So as usual, we substitute the second derivative with a d square term. So d square minus 2. The first derivative gets substituted with just d, and the no derivative term gets just a 1, and this will all be equal to 0. So let's solve this quadratic equation. This is a very straightforward quadratic equation whose solution, which can be condensed into the following form, and this will have a solution of d is equal to 1, and this is also our r. We'll So we know the value of r, but we only have one root in this solution. So, or rather, we have two roots, but the value of both the roots is equal. So, what is the general form in this case? The general form in this case is as so. We'll just borrow that from above. We'll write it here for reference, and let's let's put this in brackets. Now that we know the value of r, the general solution would be C1 plus C2t e raised to t. And this is the answer to the differential equation, or rather this is a solution to the differential equation. Again, C1 and C2 are two constants that will depend on the initial conditions, but we'll see that later again. So this was an example of the second case where the roots that we have are equal, and both to get the general solution, what we have to do again is that we multiply the second term with a t, and that will give us two distinct roots, and hence we'll get the general solution or the general form of the solution to the differential equation. Now let's do an example for the third kind of solutions where the roots are imaginary, excuse me, and complex conjugates. So for the third example, we have 36x double dot minus 36x dot plus 13x is equal to 0. So this is our differential equation. Again, let's rewrite x double dot as d square, x dot as d, and just x as nothing, and this will all be equal to 0. So in this quadratic equation, we won't be able to break the middle term down. And I know that beforehand, but if you're not brushed up on quadratic equations, you should give it a go. But since we won't be able to break the middle term down, how we can find the solution of this differential equation is by using the determinant or the square method, which tells us that the root of this equation will be minus b plus or minus square root of b square minus 4ac over 2a. And here a, b, c are the coefficients of our quadratic equation. So we'll just write that down, and we'll substitute the values of, so for b, b will correspond to minus 36, so minus of minus 36 will be plus 36. So we have 36 plus or minus square root of minus 36 the whole square minus 4 into 13 into 36, and this will be entirely divided by 2 into 36. So if you simplify this, I will be skipping the simplification, but what you'll get is 1 by 2 plus or minus square root of minus 1 over 3. And we know that the square root of a negative number can be written in the form of I. So this will be 1 by 2 plus or minus square root of I over 3. So we know the solution of the quadratic equation. So our two roots, as we know, would be 1 by 2 plus I by 3, and R2 is equal to 1 by 2 minus I by 3. So we know the roots of the quadratic equation now. So what was the general form of the differential equation? So when the roots are imaginary and complex conjugates, our final form of the solution is this. So I'll just get this and we'll take it downstairs right here. Keep it a little to the left, and we know that the general solution of the form is given by these terms right here. So in our roots, this that we found, this will be our A term, this will be our B term. Or let's just write, we know the solution is of the form A plus IB and A minus IB. So we can see that A would be equal to 1 by 2 and B would be equal to 1 by 3 in this case. And here again, A would be equal to 1 by 2 and B will be equal to 1 by 3. So they'll be the same. So we just have to check it in one of the roots. But now that we know the value of A and B, we can write the general form of this differential equation as x is equal to e raised to 1 by 2t, or just t by 2. Let's just write t by 2. And then we have a big bracket C1. We'll have cos bt. So b is 1 by 3. So cos of t over 3 plus C2 sine of t over 3, and this will be the general form of the solution of the differential equation that we had right here. So we have now dealt with all the three cases that correspond to all the three kinds of roots that we can get for the differential equation, and we now know how to deal with each individual case separately. So now finally, as to conclude this video, let's do one example where we solve a differential equation with initial conditions, and we'll see how we can find C1 and C2 in any case. So we have a differential equation x double dot plus 4x dot plus 5x is equal to 0. But in this case, we also have two initial conditions, one of which is x of 0 is 0 and the other is x of 0 is equal to 2. Now, what do these initial conditions signify? So they tell us that the value of x at time t equals 0 is equal to 0, and the value of the first derivative of x at time t equals 0 is equal to 2. So just for reference, we'll also write down the general form of the initial conditions. So they're given as x of t is equal to t naught, let's say, and then x dot of t 2, and let's call this t1 is equal to t naught dash. So what this tells us is whenever we have a second order differential equation, we'll always need two initial conditions to determine the value of two unknown constants, say c1 and c2. And whenever we'll be given the initial conditions, they'll be of this form. Well, we'll be given the value of x at some time and the value of x dot at some time, and that will help us in determining c1 and c2. And we'll see how to do that now. So first, let us start by solving the differential equation. So what we do is we substitute x double dot by d square, x dot by d, and then the x term gets nothing. So this is our differential, the quadratic equation that we'll have. And let me just make this blue. So now what we have is we want to solve this differential equation, but we won't be able to break the middle term down. And you can check this for yourself. But so what will happen is we'll use the determinant method to find the roots of the equation, which will give us minus 4 plus or minus square root of 16 minus 4 into 5 over 2, and this will give us minus 2 plus or minus I. And comparing this with a plus ib, this will give us a is equal to minus 2 and b is equal to plus 1. So now the roots that we got are of the form that are imaginary and complex conjugates of each other, which was the third case that we discussed. And the general form of that solution we also discussed in the example above. It is of this form. So let's write the general form of the solution now that we know the roots. So it will be x is equal to e raised to minus 2t c1 cos t plus c2 sin t. So we now know the general form of the solution. So let us use the initial conditions now to determine C1 and C2. So how do we go about doing that? So let's use the first initial condition. What does the first initial condition tells us? It tells us that the value of x at time t equals 0 is 0. And so what we'll do is we'll substitute the value of t is equal to 0 in the general solution of x. And when we do that, the answer we should get is equal to 0. So let's see what happens. We'll substitute x equals 0, which gives us e raised to 0. C1 cos 0 will be equal to 1 and C2 sin 0 will be equal to 0. And this will be equal to 0. So e raised to 0, the term outside the bracket will be 1. C2 into 0 will be 0. So we'll have C1 is equal to 0. So from this equation, we get that C1 is equal to 0. So now that we know the value of x, excuse me, the value of C1, we can again rewrite the general form of x as just e raised to minus 2t sine t. This is because we now know the value of C1. So now let's find out the value of C2. To find out the value of C2, we'll use the second initial condition that we have, which tells us that x dot of 0 is equal to 2. So let's use the second initial condition. It tells us that x dot of 0 is equal to 2. And before we proceed, let's find out what the value of x dot is. So x dot, as we know, is dx over dt. So in the value of x that we have now, we have two functions of t, one being the e raised to minus 2t and the other being sine t. So we'll have to use the product rule of differentiation while differentiating x. So let's do that, and so we can write the differential as the derivative of the first term with the second term being as it is, and then the first term as it is, and there'll be a plus sign in between, and the first term as it is, and the derivative of the second term, which will be cos t. The derivative of sin t is cos t. So now we have the value of x dot right here, and we've been given x dot of 0. So the value of t is equal to 0. When we substitute the value of t equals to 0 in x dot, we should get 2. So when we substitute the value of t equals 0, this term will be 1 right here, but sine of 0 will be 0. So the entire first term will be 0. And in the second term, we have e raised to minus 2t. So e raised to 0 will again be 1, and cos of 0 will also be 1. So this gives us that C2 is equal to 2. So this gives us that C2 is equal to 2. So now the general form of our solution would be e raised to minus 2t 2 sine t. And this is often called a particular solution of the differential equation because we have substituted the initial conditions and we have determined the values of C1 and C2. So basically, this is how you deal with solving second order linear homogeneous differential equations with constant coefficients. I would recommend going solving other examples on your own to get more familiar with the process, but it's pretty straightforward. And unless you've been given the initial conditions, you should always find the answer in terms of the general solution that we discussed above. But that's all for this video. If you have any doubts, please leave them in the comment section down below. If you have any recommendations, also leave them in the comment section down below. And if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, and thank you for listening.